regular meeting to order. Call roll.
Mayor Querom.
Here.
Councilmember Swanson.
Here.
Mabry.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Newman.
Here. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, to get started tonight, we're going to have public comment. A couple presentations first. Ryan, you want to take the podium? Ryan Keiser with our Historic Preservation Commission. And just...
I'm going to have to slide the button towards you on top there.
Good. So Catherine and I are here on behalf of the City of Princeton Historic Preservation Commission. We would like to present the 2019 Preservation Award to Greta and Steve Kelly of 541 South Main Street for their work on Spoon's Restaurant, and Lou and Terry Ziering at 950 North Main Street, which is also the Flower House. So we feel that the renovations of these two buildings contribute to maintaining and enhancing the architectural, historical, and cultural heritage of the City of Princeton and inspire others to do the same. So thank you. In addition, I was asked to give a brief update on the work of the Commission over the past few months. We have been working with Rachel on the Brick Street Preservation Plan, and we've got a rough draft and hope to submit a final draft in November on that. We have been organizing a evening Main Street tour, placing tour guides throughout the historic districts on November 22nd for the Chamber Christmas Walk and December 8th for the Princeton Christmas Parade. The guides will distribute Main Street district maps and other information about the history of our Main Street. And we have been working on a sign inventory in the historic districts and also from Interstate 80 through Princeton. And we would like to make some recommendations to the council probably in January, some specifics about that project. But basically we wanted to modify some of the existing signs to add the word historic for the north end and the south end, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. And so we're going to make a recommendation to sort of have a whole wayfinding signage overhaul throughout the city. So stay tuned on that. And we have also been working on a plaque program, and I brought a plaque that Matt and I actually got for our building at 14 Elm Place. So this, in addition to a plaque that the Stetsky's purchased and installed at their building on the north end of town, will be two sort of standard plaque options that building owners, if they wish, can purchase, and that the commission can help them put the information together to purchase for their buildings. I think that's it.
I know on the wayfinding signs, you thought you have to work with the state on that, so that's a...
Yes. Yes, so that will be a whole project.
That'll be a trip.
Yes, it will. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you'd like, if you guys would like, you can leave, or you can stick around for the meeting.
Thank you.
Sneak out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our second presentation is from Nash Novel on Perry Memorial Hospital, the annual report of the hospital audit.
having me again this evening. Had opportunity to come to speak to City Council a couple times in the last year. And so what I'm going to give you tonight is an update of what we have done this past year at Perry, and then give you the information from our annual audit. We are behind, as you're aware. We normally are here about 2 months prior. We had challenges with obtaining the final audit, and you'll understand that as we go through the communication. So for Perry.
Is it not working? Oh. There we go. Down button.
Down Okay. So we always start our conversations with the hospital about why we exist, and we exist to provide compassionate quality healthcare services to the people and communities we serve. And we try to do that living our values, which are excellence, respect, community, and service. So just in general, we really focus on caring for our community, and we start out with our community health needs assessment, which we do those about every 3 to 4 years. They are doing a community health needs assessment is a requirement for hospitals by federal law, and as a critical access hospital, we're actually exempted from that regulation, but we do it anyway because we think it's important to hear from our community. So just in general, that's what we do to care for our community. Recognizing excellence is something that's very important to us. Last year, at about this time, Dr. Arnold Faber was awarded the 2018 Rural Physician Award of Excellence from the Illinois Rural Health Association. So we're very proud to have a great team of physicians that work with us and want to recognize that. The other thing is, again, going back to the community health needs assessment, we look at how we partner with our different organizations in the community. So this is a particular partnership that we did with Freedom House this past year. This is called Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. So we have 2 nurses that have become trained to be sexual assault nurse examiners, and we work with Freedom House for this. They obtained a federal grant that paid for the training of our staff and to assist us in getting the right equipment that was necessary to provide excellent evidence to our law enforcement in order to get prosecution when it's appropriate. The state of Illinois actually required this year for hospitals to declare to either be a sexual assault treatment center or a transfer center, and that's divided into adults and children, pediatrics. Currently, we are an adult treatment center, and we are a transfer center for pediatrics, but we are actually also a receiving center for adults. So if a patient presents in a hospital in the South, IVCH, they actually would be transferred to Perry for treatment because we were the ones that actually chose to have people trained to do this. When we initially signed on to this grant, other hospitals, including IVCH and St. Margaret's, were to be a part of this grant, and they both backed out. So we were the ones that actually considered this important enough for our community to take this on. Prior to us having this service, last year we had 1 patient that we needed to manage in this way, and this year so far we've had 10 since we are a transfer to facility. So we do recognize it as an important thing for us to do for our community. In addition to this particular partnership with our community, we also partnered with the health department on first aid mental health training, where we have several members of our staff that are helping to train the community on how to respond to people who have a mental health crisis situation and how to provide that first conversation with them to help them to get help. We also are participating with a grant with Aruka to also look at mental health and how we can work together with some collaborative as well as complementary type of services. And then we also participate with another grant that is with North Central Behavioral Health, and that is on the opioid reduction. So there are lots and lots of things that we know through our community health needs assessment need to be addressed in our community from a mental health and behavioral perspective, and we are right there with our partners in doing that. In addition to that, we're always, again, looking for services, and we identified that a service that was needed in our community is wound care. So Nina is a certified wound ostomy nurse, and she joined us and helped us to open our wound care clinic in May of last year. Dr. Gaboli joined us later in the fall to be our certified wound care provider. So we provide for many patients to receive care to help their chronic healing wounds. This is a chronic epidemic across the country as well. Some of this is related to the fact that we have diabetes. Others might be other types of circulatory problems that we are addressing with this care that we provide to our community. This is done in our outpatient ambulatory area. We also work this year to incorporate home care into the services that we provide. As we talk about how healthcare is going to be delivered into the future, we know that having the ability to work with a patient in their home is crucial, and so that is our purpose in bringing home care. They didn't actually join us till June, which would technically be our 2019 fiscal year, but we did a lot of the work to get that done throughout 2018, so we're proud of that work that we've accomplished this year. I mentioned the behavioral health from the community health needs assessment conversation. In addition to those partnerships I mentioned, we did start adult psychiatry for our community this past fiscal year via telemedicine that is offered through our Memorial Family Health Clinic. And in June, we expanded that to include children and adolescents as well. So again, we're always looking for how do we care for our community. We have a medication-assisted treatment program that we offer that's for opioid reduction that is actually held at our Prompt Care facility. And then over the last several years, we've added our senior behavioral wellness program. We have ED consultation for mental health in our via telemedicine in the emergency room. And that assists us to help placement of patients who need inpatient care. We also have a licensed social worker that now works at the Perry Family Health Clinic and at Prompt Care, again, seeing those patients who need that extra care. We knew that Dr. Gary Haley was really having a desire to retire, and so we needed to have a transition plan for the podiatry services to our community. So Dr. Amanda McGuire joined us. Dr. Haley actually joined Perry last November as part of that transition plan. So Dr. McGuire joined us then and has replaced his practice. She has a full-time, very active practice at Perry, treating patients in both in the clinic as well as surgical services. We also recognize that we have an aging medical staff, and so we need to be always looking to how do we look for our future of healthcare into our community. So we actually were able to recruit this year 2 internal medicine physicians to join us. They both work out of the Perry Memorial Family Health Clinic. They provide hospitalist services, and they'll also be working with some of our area nursing homes for medical directorship in order to ensure that we have quality care. So Dr. John Ibrahim on the left, Dr. Das Pamnani on the right. We're very, very pleased to have them. Great clinicians, both just fresh out of residency, so just up-to-date information and working with our other providers to improve the quality of care that we provide at Perry. Again, always thinking about our expansion and services. So last year, a year and a half ago, we expanded our services into Henry and Walnut, and Christina is now our full-time service provider down in Henry. So full services are available, and we do walk-in clinic services there as well. We also, as we focus this year a lot on the quality services, we recognize that chronic conditions are a major issue for our community, and so we have a nurse practitioner that is providing services in the nursing homes for us, and that's what her practice is. She's actually seeing patients on a regular basis in the nursing homes to actually help make sure that we have their conditions taken care of quickly, rather than them ending up in the emergency room unnecessarily or for admission to the hospital that's unnecessary as well. We feel it is important from a healthcare perspective to manage patients where they are when we can. So we have that, and then in addition to that, we've really focused as well on our wellness side, and a big part of that is our Medicare well visits. So making sure patients who have Medicare get an annual checkup so that we can make sure we help address anything up front and get different screenings done that are done timely. That's, again, very important for health, is to identify conditions as early as possible to minimize the impact on the patient. We also have several support groups that we have at the hospital, and this year we expanded our supporting the community with the community, and by that, what we mean obviously is support groups. So 2 new support groups we started this past year is our low vision support group and our caregiver support group. The low vision support group actually was an idea of a community member who approached us because his wife had visual impairment, and he knew of many other community members that also had it. So we have a quarterly meeting, and we have lots of resources that are helped to identify and to get the opportunity to meet with each other. In our caregiver support group, that one focuses on those who have to care for another person who has health care needs. And we actually collaborated with Cornerstone Community Wellness in Sheffield
So it's held there part of the time and part of the time at Perry, so that we can make sure we're expanding our services throughout our service area in order to make sure we're able to provide that type of support. As I mentioned, the expanded providers, so between our additional nurse practitioners and physicians that we have brought on over the last several years, our space in our clinic is limited, and we have people working over top of each other in order to be able to see the patients. So this past year, we did seek and obtained approval to build a new family health clinic across the street from the hospital. That will expand our service size by 40%. And that is also where our telehealth for the mental health will actually be relocated. That's all part of our rural health clinic services that we provide there. By moving that off-site, we're going to be able to take our 3 surgical clinics that we have on site and move them into a shared location so we can have shared staffing. Right now, we have to staff a front-end person and several support persons in each clinic, even though they don't operate necessarily every day. And by pulling them into one location, we'll be able to be more efficient in how we support those staff. So we're pleased to have that opportunity to build a new family health clinic. This is the artist rendition, but don't need that so much anymore, as we've got quite a bit of the building done, almost all bricked up around the outside, most of the windows in, except for the large ones, and so we'll be starting drywalling soon. Our target date is February 1st, around February 1st, to be open and start providing care at that location. As far as patient care, some general statistics here. We had 734 admissions to our inpatients, resulting in 1,988 days of service, 7,225 visits to our emergency room, over 35,000 visits to our clinics. We performed over 677 surgeries. One of the things to note here is 175 inpatient versus 502 outpatient, and we have continued to see that trend that moved from inpatient to outpatient. We're going to continue to see that as we move into the future. This past year, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services declared total needs and total hits an outpatient service. This has been something that has been an inpatient service ever since we've been able to do this for our patients. So for some patients, if they have other medical comorbidities, we are able to provide that service as an inpatient, but most patients are now actually receiving that as an outpatient, a major change in how we deliver care. And again, as I talk about how things are being done in the future, that's a great example of that movement of how health care is provided. Our special procedures, we've performed over 1,000 of those. That would be anything that's in endoscopy in our pain center. We did over 100,000 lab tests, 18,000 imaging procedures, with a gross revenue of over $104 million, with a net revenue of 42, but with expenses of 45. And that leads to the conversation about our financial situation, which was not very positive this year. The bottom line there number also is 86% outpatient. Over the last couple years, that has crept up. Last year, we reported 84% outpatient. So I wanted to show just a little bit of example of that switch from inpatient to outpatient. So a patient that is admitted to the hospital into an acute care bed is considered an inpatient acute. Many patients also get admitted into what's called observation status. Observation was when it initially started, it was typically a 24-hour stay. Today, that may not be the case. Observation is considered outpatient. It's not a true admission to the hospital, although the care is provided in our inpatient unit. And the patient actually receives the same level of care from us, same nursing level, same access to resources, etc. But we actually get paid less for that care. So if you'll see, from fiscal year 2018, we had 2,231 inpatient days and only 212 observation days. This year we had 1,988 inpatient days and 516 outpatient observation days. Over on the little right-hand corner, if you actually see that, we actually had more people come to us for care, 2,504 days between the inpatient and the observation, versus what we had the previous year. But because of that movement from inpatient to observation, we actually had less income from the care that we provided to our patients. The other aspect of care is what's called swing bed days. Swing bed is an alternative to skilled nursing facility care. The patient has a very short stay need for that type of service. They can receive that through us as a critical access hospital. But you have to have been an inpatient in order to be able to become a swing bed patient. So you can see that our actually days of swing beds declined from fiscal year 2018 to 2019 because we had less patients actually eligible to go into swing beds. You can see our a slight decline again this year in our ED visits. Up to a certain point, this has been purposeful. We have tried to steer patients to primary care, to the prompt care, rather than coming to the ED when it was not necessary. So what we actually see, although we saw a decline in the number of patients we saw in the emergency room, we actually have seen a shift, what we call to the right, which means there are actually more severe patients that we're taking care of in the emergency room, because we have actually done a decent job of moving patients from the inpatient to that outpatient side of the business, which is where it really truly gets your primary care focus done. And we saw an increase of our primary care visits. This is an overall of our actual operational income versus expenses. This is kind of the broad category. So again, this at the top where it says net patient service, that already takes the contractual allowance. That's how much money we were going to be able to collect from patients and insurance companies. We had some other operating revenue, which brought us to that $42 million of income. When you look at actually our trend in expenses, our trend actually for expenses was not really up much from last year, but we, of course, with the less income coming in, it did lead to that loss. You do see an increase in depreciation. Our purchase of our electronic medical record system did start depreciating this year as well, which is what that increase was in the difference from one year to the next. This slide then gets us to a little bit more detail on our operating revenues. So again, at the top you see the actual income that we had, and then from the expenses, again, if you look from year to year, the actual increase is not that much from year to year, but again, you see the depreciation and some other categories where we did have some increases and some decreases. But overall, that gave us a loss of operations of $3.06 million, and then with the others bringing it to the $3.4 million loss. So that then gets us to what is our net worth, and so of course with that kind of a loss, we did have a decline in our net position for the year. You'll see a note mentioned up there. We are having to adopt additional accounting standards in years, and this year we had to adopt GASB statement number 75, which this one refers to if we have past employees that are retired that we provide some type of benefit to, we now have to account for that in our finances, even if there's no cost to us. So there's considered a liability. So employees who are on the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund who retire from us and choose to maintain our health insurance can do so, even though they do pay 100% of the rates that we charge, what we call COBRA rates. But that still is considered a liability to us. So that actually was a restatement of our finances because of that. Because, again, it's not a large number, it wasn't a huge one, but that is a note that's identified in our audit, so I did want to point that out. So one of the things that has come up is why the loss that we had from a financial income. As I mentioned, that outpatient shift, so inpatient to outpatient. We get paid less money for those observation patients than we do inpatient, so even though we care for those patients in often the same manner, we get paid less money. The other aspect is a shift towards more government payers, and so this is just a partial, so this doesn't match up with the rest of the audit because this is time frames are not the same. But we ran some numbers as we went through our audit process to look at this shift. So the first column is the May through December, and then January through September of this year. So again, this doesn't match up. But you can see that shift from a little bit more Medicare and a little bit more Medicaid from the percent of commercial. When you look at it on the second box of graph there, it's then that shows you that shift from inpatient to outpatient. And then the bottom one is where the charges shift is from that. And so you'll see, again, the shift to that observation. So just wanted to point out that that is part of that decrease in revenue that we have experienced. This again is looking at it from another perspective. Back onto the audit report, you can see that inpatient routine services from year to year versus the outpatient services. And then this part at the bottom is where we get to the contractual allowance. So the top part is what we charge. The middle section is what they don't pay us, and then the bottom line is what they actually pay us for patient care services. And you see the decline there that we received this past year. One of the things that I wanted to point out that also is noted in the audit, as I mentioned, that shift to an increase in Medicaid, there was about a 2% shift in Medicaid this year. The state of Illinois has had a program for probably the last 10 years. It's called the Hospital Assessment Program. So the hospital is paying a tax to the state. The state then is able to receive a matching dollar from the federal government, and then that money is paid back out to the hospitals for care that they provide to the patient. The formula for doing that was set originally back in 2008 and then reset in 2015, and then reset again last year. Based on the 2015, Perry actually received more money from that program than what we do today. And it's actually in two buckets of payments. So the top yellow line there, in 2018 we received $1,190,000 from one set of the program, and this year $1,091,000, and so that's not too much of a shift. But the second half of that program, in last year we received $1.2 million from that program, and this year we received $327,000. So when I began to talk about some of the losses that we had this year, we had increased Medicaid patients, but we actually received less money for their care as a per patient basis. Because, as we have mentioned, we transitioned our electronic medical record this past year, we did struggle this year with getting bills out timely. And because of that, right now we have a high accounts receivable. That is being worked, but as you can see, it's higher than what it was last year, and where it stands, it is improving, but we were behind in getting our bills out. This then is a consolidated statement of our position. Again, you can see what our value is from year to year, and we've had a slight decline, not an overall major decline, but a slight decline. And what you'll see there again is a movement from where you'll see some assets last year might have been in cash or in prepaid, whereas this year it might be in depreciation. Part of that is that timing of the Cerner purchase. Last year it wasn't being depreciated yet. This fiscal year it was being depreciated. So again, you can see what our movement down is. Again, not a significant amount, but it was a slight decline. But one of the positive news, after all that negative news about our financials, is we actually were able to retire quite a bit of debt this past year. So the bottom is actually our 2018 long-term debt, over $1 million. And at the end of 2019, we had only about $600,000. We actually, in May of this year, paid off our emergency room expansion that was done in 2006. So, questions?
If I could, a couple things. We realize it's a moving target what you're trying to do. We understand that. So when we look at, I enjoyed last year you had the pie charts, but this year I got to figure it out. So basically, if Medicaid and between 2018 and 19 was approximately 16% of our customers, and 2017-18 was 14%. That was that 2% shift you talked about. And then I noticed Blue Cross and commercial insurance, both of those were down by 1% each, so you lost some gain down there too.
Right.
And that would be,
if you actually looked at the dollar amount, the Blue Cross wasn't down in dollar, but because of the increase in Medicaid, the percent was down.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the reimbursement that you got for Medicaid is about $1 million spread from what you had received the year before. What do you propose for this coming year? How are they going to treat you with that?
It'll be the same this year as it was in the most recent one. So that hospital assessment program was actually put in place for a couple of years. They're actually redesigning. It'll go through July of next year with the same payment that we kind of received this past year, and then they're going to be redoing it again in July 1st of next year. So they've already started working on the redesign in order to be able to have it in place in time for next year. But the state's intention is when they change the program, they want what they call the dollar to follow the patient. So the way they set it up is that it's based on your percent of Medicaid patients. When they did the initial one in back 2008, 2015, we did OB services, and that was a special category that received additional funding, and of course we closed OB in 2014, so we no longer have that on our record. And then the overall, so the fact that we went up 2%, when they do July of next year, we'll get a little bit more, but not as much as that $1 million that we'd had the previous year. So we do not anticipate the government payers paying us anymore. One of the things that we have that's been a very strong program for us this year from the federal government is a program called the 340B. It's a program that allows us to buy our drugs very cheaply for outpatients. And that the government has announced again today they're looking for how they can cut that program. So we anticipate continued difficulty with getting revenue to come into the organization moving forward, rather than going up.
I kind of almost figured that, unfortunately. And then finally, you're already 6 months into this new year. So what do you project, gut feeling, if there's $3.4 million loss this past year that ended April 30th, you're 6 months into this year, what do you think you're going to be this year?
So we implemented a lot of changes over the last 4 months, probably because we obviously were not aware of this change. And that's been one of the difficult pieces is we had some inappropriate reporting of our information last year, and we didn't discover it till the audit process started. So we got a late start on making a difference. We did make several changes in our our expenses this year, but the biggest part of that is just now taking effect between now and January. So I anticipate a loss again, but we anticipate reducing that loss so that it's not as significant. We're actually working right now on the next projections because of this change and what things we were able to implement. The goal with the things that we put in place was that it would bring us back to more of a neutral bottom line, but because we were 6 months in, it's not going to have enough time to take full effect for this fiscal year.
Thank you.
Okay. As far as the depreciation on the new software, how long do you still have as far as to depreciate it to your liability?
So we actually are depreciating for a 3-year period. When we actually went to purchase the software, both the software vendor and our auditors told us we'd be able to depreciate for 5 years. And then last year when we started to depreciate, our auditors told us, no, you're going to have to go 3 years. So we started depreciating. This was year 1. So we actually have 2 more years. But we'll actually be done paying, because we're on a payment plan for that, we'll be done paying in May of next year. So the cash part of it will actually stop then.
Okay. The other thing, I know the challenges that it is to having to deal with the state and having transition to Medicaid to the commercial insurance companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield. From all these services that you provide, what would you say would be your expected non-collectible AR for the year?
So actually it's already accounted for within our finances. So when we do that contractual allowance, we actually already account for that in there. So it's not, the numbers that I have, it's not separated out from the other part of it. On some of our reports, you saw the bad debt number. It was, we got about $1.2 million of bad debt we expected from last year. And so that again goes back to how healthcare is being reimbursed. A lot more of our patients have high deductible plans, and when they have high deductible plans, that self-pay portion we collect a lot less of that than we do when the insurance company is actually paying it. So we actually saw less income from that perspective as well. And then I didn't mention, but the Medicaid program moved to managed care plans. You know that. This past year. So it started in April, actually, but by the time, since our fiscal year starts May 1, it really didn't affect the previous year so much. But the state implemented, instead of being on straight Medicaid, you're actually on Medicaid managed care. And Medicaid managed care is supposed to pay us the same as what the state does. But what Medicaid managed care does is it has an opportunity we have to pre-certify things more than what we had to under Medicaid. And they deny care a lot more, and even, especially like even the inpatient care, under a straight Medicaid, if the patient presented with inpatient need, we were more likely to get an inpatient stay than what we are under the managed care program. So we're definitely seeing less income per patient and a lot more work, because when it was straight Medicaid, we billed one spot. We had one set of rules, and right now we have to work under 4 set of rules and bill 4 different people. The same patient.
Thank you. I know it's going to be very challenging just moving on forward with the future with all the changes in medical.
I could ask another question or make a comment. So Annette, I know that you report to us once a year, we appreciate that, but month to month and really week to week, you have your own board. And if you could recognize the board members that are appointed by our council, actually appointed by the mayor and agreed to by our council in a vote, who are your board members then that you have in the community, please?
Currently, Linda Gustafson is our chair, Gary Bruce is our vice chair, Deb Madsen is our secretary treasurer, and then we have Rick Clary, Tony Sorsick, and Dennis Thompson.
Thank you.
Oh, Tom Tester, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I didn't
Tom
count, I didn't use my fingers, sorry. Tom Tester. 21st year old person, I shouldn't have missed him. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Annette.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now we'll continue forward public comment. Do we have any other public comment before we get started? Okay, so we'll go to the approval of minutes, and Commissioner Newman.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on Monday, October 21st, 2018.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Any corrections? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. We'll go to City Clerk Nelson for approval of invoices.
In the Department of Accounts and Finances for this period, we have invoices totaling $59,502.71. In the Department of Streets and Public Improvements, we have invoices totaling $67,261.46. In the Department of Public Safety, we have invoices totaling $106,255.24. And in the Department of Public Property and Utilities, we have invoices totaling $148,058.25. Mayor, all council members present have confirmed their reviews of all invoices and now are submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve the invoices as presented.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Any comments or corrections? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. We'll go to regular business and City Clerk Nelson.
So at this time, we need to untable ordinance O-19-020, revising the city code to prohibit manned aircraft on public grounds.
I move that we untable ordinance O-19-020.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to, you might be surprised, ordinance O-19-020. This is our never-ending review of that ordinance, which is addressing aircraft use in and around the city of Princeton. You might notice we finally did make contact with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, who basically said that they have jurisdiction on anything that is off the ground. So I included a new item in the prohibition portion of this ordinance that states that no person shall operate any aircraft in conflict with rules promulgated by the FAA. That kind of takes care of everything else that's still enumerated here, but I left that language in there just for definition purposes so that maybe somebody 20 years from now will want a little bit more definition of some of the activities that could take place by aircraft. I'm hopeful that this will kind of pass the smell test of anything that's been holding it up so far. I guess at this point I'll take some questions if there are any.
Do we need a motion?
I guess that might be true.
And this is second
Second.
time.
I move that we approve ordinance O-19-020.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Any further comment? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mabry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye.
Okay, next on the agenda is Resolution R-19-035. This is a resolution authorizing a labor agreement with Princeton Professional Firefighters Local 4308. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this resolution, and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve Resolution R-19-035.
Second. Motion has been second. Turn it over to Rachel.
Thank you. So this is the union agreement with the fire department. Their contract expires at the end of this fiscal year, so they submitted a request to bargain at the beginning of October, and so we started that process and it went about 3 meetings back and forth. I think we came up with a fair and reasonable contract. It's a 5-year agreement. They're a year behind the other contracts we negotiated all those last year. So their contract is in front of you. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Any comments?
Rachel, thank you. I met with Chief Woolley today around noon, and I expressed to him that I was going to be voting no on this. And it isn't any disrespect to the firefighters, paramedics. I just feel that we're 6 months out on this contract. This contract does not come due until May 1st, actually takes effect May 1st of next year. And I'd really like to have the new city manager, whoever that might be, to have a chance to look at the contract and review it. And so with that in mind, in order that there were 6 months out, I will be voting no on this contract.
One of the primary reasons why it's being done now is because this is actually Rachel's last day as our city manager. She has done 3 of these union contracts in the past. She's seasoned, she's a negotiator, she's doing it without an attorney. She got very favorable terms. It didn't seem right or fair that we should ask a new city manager who would probably start after the first of the year, who has to get up to speed on city business and how the city's managed and get to know people and so on, to then ask them to negotiate a union contract when that individual doesn't know the issues, doesn't know the players, doesn't know the union reps. It would not be fair to that individual. Rachel took a proactive approach here to get this contract done. Again, very favorable terms. So it's for me, it's this needs to be passed.
I think it's comforting to know that the city can relax for the next 5 years, that we've got contracts with the fire department. I think a 2% increase per year is acceptable compared to other communities that are offering much more than that for their services for their union people. I see no advantage to a new city manager trying to take on a project like this, Ray. I don't think that a new city manager is going to negotiate a lower price or less of a deal that we gave in this particular contract. I think we need to move on this one.
Ray, are you looking more or less to possibly table this until we have a new city manager intact, just to make them comfortable with reading through it?
Absolutely. Let's say, for example, that if we tabled it to 90 days out from when it's going to force, that would be first meeting in February, I believe. All of February, all of March, all of April. First meeting in February gives us a chance to have that city manager hopefully on the ground ready to go and look it over. The other thing is, we weren't made aware that we were negotiating on a contract. Rachel was kind enough to send us a council update a week ago today, and that was the first I knew that we were negotiating contracts. And so I just wish I would have been aware of it, and we weren't aware of it until then, a week ago.
I think if there's a specific issue, we could talk about that. If there's something in the contract that, you're not in agreement with, then we could meet with the union to discuss that. But we have been negotiating and fair with them, so I don't think it would be fair if we waited.
During the negotiations, I know we as a council found out about a week ago. Joel, were you aware of it before that?
I knew that she was negotiating. I mean, she's our city manager. She took a proactive approach to get this to go. They came to us. We said, yeah, let's do it. Let's negotiate. Let's get this thing done. But again, you bring in a new city manager to negotiate something when they have to get up to speed on everything else that's going on with the city. And again, they don't know the players. They don't know the union reps. They don't know the issues. I mean, we've got extremely favorable terms here. Majority of the teachers, they went out on strike because they couldn't come to an agreement, but they settled 4% a year increase. 4%, 5%, and 4%, I think, is what it is.
4.5, and 4 for the next 3 years. I mean, that I'm very glad we don't have a contract like that for the firefighters.
And these are highly skilled positions as well. At 2.5% the first year and 2% for every year for the next 4 years. Extremely favorable terms. Longevity pay is now based on base income or base salary instead of gross. I mean, this is a very favorable contract. Put it in place and let's move on.
I don't think tabling is the right answer either, Ray. I mean, if we table this, that would imply that we should table everything that we do for the next 3 months until the new city manager has a chance to review everything we do. It doesn't make sense. We have a great deal. They're happy. We're happy. It's cost effective. We don't have to worry about a contract for 5 years. This is a good deal. We need to move on it.
I don't think it's so much as far as how favorable it is, because I just looked at it as far as the salaries go. That is actually really good. The simple fact is that each one of us out here is always held accountable for everything that we do. That I think that what the biggest thing is that everybody should have known that at least this was taking place.
I agree. I mean, we hire a city manager to manage the city. She has responsibilities, she has tasks that she performs without talking to the city council prior to that. She makes major decisions for major investments and purchases on behalf of us, and we trust her, and we will trust the next city manager to do the same thing as well. We have to put our trust in these people. And everything comes to us, and Ray, you certainly have a right tonight to say, I vote against it, but we can't tie the hands of the city manager or the next city manager to run everything past us before they make a move. No one would want to work for us.
Oh, I understand, but the contracts are one of the main things that a city manager would be involved with negotiating. And this is for 5 years, 10.5% over that 5 years. We don't know yet, and I don't like to tie the pensions in with the firefighter salary because it's two separate things, because the pensions are mandated. But do we know what the firefighter's pension is going to be for this coming year? Because I know the mayor's made a point to say that the police was $100,000 or more, and we still hadn't heard about the firefighters. Do we know where we're at on the firefighter's pension?
We should know this week.
I'll stand where I'm at. I feel good about the fact that I think we have a new city manager probably going to be hired, and I think that city manager deserves respect to be able to look at a contract that would be, and what Rachel has done, that file can sit there, and that city manager can build off that file that Rachel has worked with, I feel. So, I appreciate your stand, and you respect it, but I feel differently.
This could come back and bite you.
Yes, it could.
Would you feel more comfortable, Ray, if we tabled in one that's in executive session to discuss this before we vote? I mean, in the past, I think we've done that on contracts.
You're doing it in public now.
Discuss it now. Now's the time. We're here to vote.
Sure. So I'll vote no with the understanding I'd like to have the new city manager take a look at this. Rachel, 4 years ago, we were blessed to have Rachel come in to work with us. She inherited a mess from the last city manager, including a $3 million deficit, or $3 million reserve that wasn't there. And she spent the first 6 months trying to find that reserve. We're thankful that that's not going to happen with the next city manager, and that person, he or she, can focus on contracts and things like that. So I'll just be voting no with the feeling that I'd like to see a new city manager take a look at all the contracts.
I think 2% over 5 years and a 5-year deal is a great deal. I think we need to vote yes.
Any further comment?
And again, I don't want it to be a reflection on these firefighters. I know you're in the audience here. We've always supported you as a council. I've supported you. We supported the last contract that, Rachel, how many years was the last contract for? You remember? Was it a 3-year?
5. I wasn't here for the last one.
You weren't for the last one?
5 years.
Okay. So we voted in favor of that contract unanimously, I believe. So I just feel that we need to let that new city manager have a chance to look at it.
City manager can look at it once they come on board and it's been passed, and it's our ordinance, it's our law.
And their city managers are going to say, boy, you guys cut a great deal. That's what they're going to say.
Any further comment? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson,
Aye.
Mabry,
No.
Gomez,
Just because of the comment, I will say that it doesn't need a city manager to do this. She actually did a good job. I just wish that, just like everything else that has significant thing to the community, that she should have been brought in. But I'll go aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Mayor Querem?
Aye.
Okay, next on the agenda is Resolution R-19-036. This is a resolution authorizing an accounting services agreement with Lauterbach and Amon LLP. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this resolution, and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve Resolution R-19-036.
Second.
Motion for second. Any comments?
I'll speak on this briefly. So we brought in Lauterbach and Amon, now I don't know how long ago it's been, but as our financial consultants, after we kind of had a rough start with figuring out how we're going to do that position, and they've been a huge asset to us. They provided a lot of professionalism that we didn't have before, and they provide a lot of resources in the financing department. So they haven't given us an increase. This does have a little bit of an increase in what we're going to be paying them. But I think it's well worth it for the services that they've been providing us over the last year plus. They've just been really great to work with. That's all I have.
Any comments? The motion's been seconded. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson?
Aye.
Mabry?
Aye.
Gomez?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Mayor Querem?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution R-19-037. This is a resolution appropriating $66,204 in MFT funds for road salt purchases between now and 4/30 of 2020. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this resolution, and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve Resolution R-19-037.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Rachel?
So this is for salt purchases, like they said. We used the state bid for this, and then we've been paying it out of our MFT for the last couple of years. So this just appropriates the full amount for the tonnage that we're going to be getting. So it's $66,204 for the year. Hopefully we don't need any of it.
Any further comment? Motion's been seconded. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson?
Aye.
Mabry?
Aye.
Gomez?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Mayor Querem?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is Resolution R-19-038. This is a resolution accepting the low bids on water treatment chemicals for the 2020 operating year. Mayor, all council members have reviewed this resolution, and it is submitted for disposition.
I move that we approve Resolution R-19-038.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Any comments? Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson?
Aye.
Mabry?
Aye.
Gomez?
Aye.
Newman?
Aye.
Mayor Querem?
Aye. Thank you, Pete. Now go to city manager report.
So I just have some of the financial reports that Lauterbach puts together for us. First is the monthly financial report. We've been a little behind on these just because we're finishing up the stuff for the audit, but this is through September of 2019. You will have a budget amendment for this fiscal year just due to a few things at the next council meeting, so I'll go over some of those things in more detail. I also have the monthly pension report for August and September, because we were behind on those as well. So if there's any questions on those, I can address them. Otherwise, they're in your packets.
Any questions or comments?
I will just mention quickly the sales tax for September is up a little bit. One thing, we did start receiving the additional 0.25%, so we'll make sure they start separating that out as well on here.
And that will be for the street work that we're going to be doing starting next year over a 5-year period. And I think we're going to have a link on our city website showing the money coming in.
Yeah, there's already a page on the city website and a separate account for those funds so that the revenue totals on the website and any expenses will be on there as well. But there haven't been any yet, obviously.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. I got a few things for Mayor report. First thing, I have a proclamation for National Apprenticeship Week. Registered apprenticeships are vital components of talent and development in many high-demand and high-growth sectors and are recognized as critical post-secondary education training for future employment. City of Princeton recognizes the strength and leadership displayed by apprentices. This results from the dedication and generosity of sponsors and participating employers who provide meaningful educational opportunities through on-the-job learning and related technical and theoretical instruction, which serves to enhance the economic vitality of Princeton. Therefore, I, Joel Quare, Mayor of Princeton, Illinois, proclaim November 11th through the 17th, 2019 is National Friendship Week in the city of Princeton in recognition of and appreciation for all individuals, employers, and educators whose efforts improve workforce competitiveness in Princeton and beyond. Do you have a public notice? City Hall and all city services will be closed on Monday, November 11th, 2019, in observance of Veterans Day. Garbage routes normally picked up on Monday will be moved to Tuesday, November 12th. Please have garbage and recyclables set out by 5:30 a.m. on that day. We got a while back, we applied for, we got a $25,000 grant for sidewalks. We got that with the help of Senator Chuck Weaver, our state senator. And that is, we're planning on putting a sidewalk on Peru Street from the library down to Homer Street, I believe. We're going to use that money for that project. And we just, the state just awarded a multi-billion-dollar public works project. And Princeton is slated to receive $50,000 in that program. And that is also going to be used for sidewalks, and that is also through the work of Senator Chuck Weaver out of Peoria. He's been very instrumental in helping us in many different areas. So we'll have about $75,000 in money coming our way for sidewalk repair. So that's good news. And I got an email from Joshua Ray. I think this is Chuck, or not Chuck, it's Clyde Ray's son. Yeah, so I'll just read what he's got here. I'm doing a capstone project for my bachelor's degree at Washington University in St. Louis. It involves a municipal case study related to sustainability. I chose to write mine on Princeton, and I have a short survey, 20 questions, that I would like to get as many people from Princeton as possible to take by the end of November. The final product will essentially be a set of policy recommendations, so my goal with the survey is to get community input. I'm going to post this on my Facebook page as far as the link to take the survey, so anybody interested in that. And then for those that are not, I think we can put we can put a link on our website as well, so those that are not on Facebook can go there and click on the link and take the survey. As I mentioned earlier, sadness. This is Rachel's last day as Princeton's city manager. And she is going to make, I think, the plan is she'll be at our next city manager or next council meeting to tie up some loose ends. But this is her last day officially as our city manager. Rachel came to us 4 years ago, and she was a godsend. And Ray, mentioned a couple of things that she did, and I think it was more than 6 months she spent on that. I think it was more like a year in trying to get our finances corrected, and she did just a fabulous job for someone who has never been a city manager before. So I just wanted to go through some of the things that she's done. This is a very short sample of what she has accomplished for us. She negotiated, researched, and coordinated the sale of the city's transfer station for $1.5 million and a 25-year contract for the city's trash pickup. She moved the city to the IPBC insurance pool for employees, which has resulted in significant savings in the city's health insurance costs and is projected to save even more in the years to come. She has negotiated 3 union contracts, now 4, without having to use an attorney and prior to contract expirations with favorable terms. She moved the Euclid Avenue reconstruction project along. That was kind of a project that's been going on for years. It was stagnated. It was sitting. She got it moving forward. It took a lot of time and energy to get it done. And it has been completed. I think anybody who's been going down Euclid Street will agree that it's a fabulous improvement over what was there before. She's worked with department heads monthly and yearly to pass balanced budgets. It's not an easy job to do. There's a lot of difficult decisions to make. There have been over the last 3 years. She successfully negotiated a lower rate with our ambulance billing company, which has brought significant savings to the city. Our long-term debt, about 4 years ago, was sitting at about $42 million. It's now down to about $28 million. And the primary reason for that is that we've taken out no long-term debt. And we've been able to service the debt without taking on new debt. So that is coming down, consistently. Also, since Rachel came on board, we have a reduction in employees from 7. We were sitting at 80. I think we're down to 72, 73. So the salary and benefits that we are saving there has been significant to the city as well. And then with the new phone system upgrade that she put in, we're saving thousands of dollars a year on that. So, and this, again, I have pages and pages of things that she has done for the city in the last 4 years. She's been a godsend to us. We've been very, very fortunate to have her in her seat. I'm going to miss her very much. I told her tonight, I guess I'm going to take your name off my speed dial. I won't be able to call you anymore because I'll probably end up doing it anyway, but I have it. So at any rate, I just want to thank Rachel for her years of service. She's not going anywhere. And she'll be around and she'll be helping us out as well until the new city manager is in place on a very low-key way of doing things. At any rate, I just want to, again, thank you and appreciate everything you've done. And I'm going to miss you, and I'm sure we all will up here. So, thank you.
I'm not going to say anything because I won't be able to hold it together. So I won't say anything because I thank you, and I'll still be around, like you said, and I'm going to miss everyone.
Here it is. Okay, that is all I have on our mayor report. Do we have any old business tonight? Do we have any new business? Any additional for new public comment? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn here and go into executive.
I move that we adjourn our regular meeting tonight and convene an executive session under Illinois statutes to discuss personnel issues, and then reconvene for our next regular meeting on Monday, November 18th, 2019, 7 o'clock at City Hall.
Second. Motion's been second. Call roll.
Councilmember Swanson.
Aye.
Mavry.
Aye.
Gomez.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Mayor Querem.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned, and thank you all for attending.